In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I made myself start craving healthy food, and I'm going to tell you the exact process I used to reprogram my taste buds so that I actually start liking healthy food instead of the junk food. Okay, and after this video, you're no longer going to be skinny fat and you'll finally be able to get that lean aesthetic physique that you always wanted without going up and down and up and down in weight. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I've done. You need to go on a strict elimination diet for a month. So what is an elimination diet, Harsha? So an elimination diet is essentially when you eliminate everything except one food. Okay, so primarily this is going to be like a carnivore diet, right? So essentially you only have like 90% meat, right? And the other like 10% is like minimum ingredients. So like obviously you need butter or like ghee to like cook the meat, right? And you might, throw in like a few onions a little bit, and you might squeeze a lemon on there, but that's it. It's like 90% meat. Okay, now before all those limiting beliefs come in your head, like, oh, well, how am I supposed to survive on just meat? How, well, what if I die? You're not gonna die, okay? You sound like a dork. Don't listen to all these people who are like, oh, you need this, you need that. Look, if you do a diet for like a month, you'll be fine. There are people who don't even eat food for a month and they're fine, okay? This is why I'm telling you to do this is because it's going to reset all the cravings that you have. Okay, obviously it's going to be difficult, right? But it's only going to be difficult for the first week. And then after the first week, the second week, the third week, and the fourth week, you're going to be fine. And then after the month, then you can start introducing foods. But this whole process is designed in a way where it just reprograms your desires for food. I mean, think about it. If you're in a desert somewhere, right? You're stuck in the Sahara Desert, right? And you just don't have any access to food and you're just like drinking water out of a cactus. You would appreciate an apple more when you eat it, right? But your fat ass, when you eat that shit right now, you're not going to appreciate it, right? Because it's like there's so much food everywhere. Like you can go to Walmart and get some like 3-4 jars of Nutella, and you can get like 5 packs of Pop Tarts. You're not appreciating it enough, right? So this whole process is going to design it in such a way where you appreciate the foods like rice and things like that, but you have to first build up to that. Okay, and that brings me to my second point. The first week is going to be insanely tough. Okay, you're going to have diarrhea, you're going to have a whole bunch of desire for sugar. Okay, but after this first week, like I said, you will be coasting through the second, third, and fourth week. Okay, but you just have to bear through it. I know it's painful. I know, your tendencies for sugar. It's like you've had it all your life. You had Chips Ahoy, you had all this, but you just have to go through a week, and you have to understand that it's a week for the rest of your life. Okay, so just bear through the first week, and yeah, and then after the month, now this is where the fun stuff happens, right? After 1 month of being on carnivore, which is an elimination diet, right? You can start reintroducing the foods, and this is where the transformation process happens. This is where all the the big stuff happens. So when you reintroduce the food, you need to make sure that you reintroduce whole foods. Okay, that's the whole point we did this. If you're going to do this for like a week, a month, and then you reintroduce unhealthy food, like you put in the Pop Tarts, you put in all this like bullshit food, you would have just erased everything that you would have done. Okay, so when you reintroduce this stuff, make sure you reintroduce like things like potatoes, right? Whole foods, things like rice, maybe things like eggs, right? Maybe start off with meat, but then you put eggs in there, right? And then you can put in stuff like you can put in fruits, but I would recommend dry fruits, and I'll get into why you should have dry fruits instead of fruits, because everybody's telling you like, hey, you should have fruits. The animal-based diet, Paul Saladino is telling you to do fruits. I'll tell you why you should do dry fruits, but that's later. But yeah, so you reintroduce the whole foods, okay, and you want to do this slowly. So when you eat primarily meat for like a month, this is going to essentially make you eat like around 1,500, 1,800 calories, because you just can't overeat on meat. And I forgot to tell you, you also want to make sure that when you're doing this, you want to do intermittent fasting. So you don't eat breakfast, but you eat lunch and you eat dinner, okay? And that lunch and that dinner is meat. That's just what it is for the first month, okay? And then you want to taper off that, and you want to go to once a day, where you only eat once a day. So you don't eat breakfast, you don't eat lunch, but you eat dinner, okay? And your dinner is like your big like serving of like meat, okay? And I know that's scary, I understand, but When you go from eating 3 times a day to 2 times a day and then 1 time a day, your body is just going to adapt. So what I would recommend is actually for you to do intermittent fasting for about like 1 to 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks you want to essentially do one meal a day. And this is just going to program your body to actually do more work, and you'll have more energy as well. You would think that, hey, if I just eat like less, if I just eat once a day, like I'm probably gonna feel tired and yawn a lot, right? No, like it's crazy, but the people who only eat once a day, they actually have like a lot of energy. Like if you notice anybody at your workplace, or if you notice anybody around you, like in your school or anything, the people who have like lots of energy, they're just not eating, or they eat like very less. And you would think if you eat more food, you're gonna have more energy. But this is why you have things like afternoon comas and things like that, where you're just yawning and you need to take a nap and you can't really focus when you're doing your work, is because you have all this like food, like corruption in your head, right? How we're meant to be eating is like after you do all your work, after you do everything that you're supposed to do, then you eat your food, right? Because it's like a reward. And the only scenario where you don't do that is like, okay, if you're going to the gym, obviously have something before the gym and after the gym. But I'll get into that as well, how you can basically eat for the gym, but also prioritize your work. Okay, but you essentially have to be on the elimination diet for a month. You have to do that to reset all the cravings. Okay. And when you reintroduce the whole foods, this is the exact macros that I would recommend. Now, obviously, can you be a little bit off? Sure, but what I would recommend is 0.82 grams of protein per pound of body weight, right? So if you're like 160 pounds, you want to be eating around like 140 pounds of protein or more. But the minimum is you want to have around like 0.82, right, for protein. And then the next thing is fat. So fat, people say like, okay, if you eat fat, you're gonna get fat, right? That's not true at all. You actually need to have like around 30% to 35% of your calories coming from fat, okay? So what this means is, you're gonna need like fatty meat, or you might have eggs as well. So you can have like, your fatty meat for the first month, and then when you reintroduce eggs, you can, make sure your ratios are on point, so that you're always in the 30% to 35% fat. You don't want your fat to be low, because if it's below 30% of your calories, you're going to essentially, like your testosterone, like your hormones and everything's going to be out of whack, and you're going to be essentially way more hungry. I mean, think about the foods that have fat, right? Meat has fat, eggs have fat, and then you also have things like, cheese, and anything that has fat just makes you more full, okay? The carbs, the shit carbs, that's what makes you fat, right? When you have more fat, you're gonna feel good. So don't be scared of that, right? And you also want to make sure you have a lot of fiber. Okay, so when you reintroduce those foods after that 1 month of elimination diet, you want to make sure like all those micronutrients, especially fiber, is being met. Okay, people will tell you like, oh, you don't need fiber and this and that, because the trend right now is animal-based diet. But you see how things change. People always go from vegan to paleo to animal-based, and even before animal-based, it was carnivore. So it's like, pick one, right? Is it carnivore? Is it animal-based? Is it like, what is it? Is it pescatarian? And then you find out like, oh, if I just eat fish a lot, I'm gonna get mercury and all that. Like, don't follow like the fad diets, okay? What you need to follow is to make sure all your micronutrients are hit for the most part, right? So things like your omega-3s, omega-6s, right? Things like your calcium, your potassium, your things like your folate, right? All these things you can track in this app that I use. I'm not sponsored, by the way, obviously, because this video is probably like not going to get many views right now. It's essentially an app called Chronometer. So chrono, as in like Chrono, and then meter, so Chronometer. And on that app, you can actually see not only just like the calories and the fat and the protein and the carbs, but you can also see like things like the micronutrients I mentioned, right? So like exactly how much calcium, exactly how much sodium you're getting. You'll see everything like to the gram, to the percent. Now, obviously, don't be autistic with it. Don't like track it like, oh my God, I'm 10 grams off my calcium, shit. Like, just make sure like the bar is like full for most of the nutrients. Because if your micronutrients are hit, you will essentially just not crave any food that's like unhealthy. all this stuff that you feel, even if you have like your proteins and your fats high and you have your carbs low, that's why you crave that unhealthy food. You see what I mean? Like, think about it. If you're having a lot of meat in your egg and a lot of eggs, but you just don't have like potatoes, or if you don't have any carbs and your carbs are super low, that's why you go for the the cookies and this and that, because there's this deficiency of carbs in your diet. Okay, so obviously for the first month, you don't want to have carbs for the most part. You want to just only have meat, fatty meat for the first month. But then after, like I said, you want to introduce fats and carbs from whole foods. So potatoes and eggs, like I said. So, but yeah, man, that's essentially what you want to do. And for carbs, I would honestly say make sure you have around like 100-gram carbs. Carbs aren't super important, but they're definitely important if you don't have enough of them. Okay, so around 100 grams of carbs is kind of good. So around like 90, maybe 80, 100, 110 is fine. You could have actually more if you can. So like 150 is also fine, but just make sure that your carbs aren't low, like 10, 20, 30, because that's what's actually going to cause you to crave like the unhealthy stuff. So carbs is actually good for you. In fact, you're actually going to get more energy in the gym if you actually have more carbs. So don't be scared of carbs, okay? And the other thing I want to say is sometimes you're gonna cheat, okay? That's the other point I have, and you're just gonna cheat sometimes. But at least after the first month, your cheating is not even gonna seem like cheating, because you know what's gonna be cheating after 1 month of the elimination diet? You're just gonna cheat with like 500 calories, right? And this is the dry fruits that I mentioned, right? So what's gonna happen is you're gonna crave things like fruits, but when you crave things like fruits, I want you to go for dry fruits. So dry fruits is essentially things like dates, things like raisins. So they're essentially dried up grapes, right? Or dried up, I don't know what dates are essentially, but they're like from Dubai or something. They're pretty cheap actually, the dates, but they're essentially the dried up versions of fruit. And they're less stimulating, right? So when you eat them, you'll get the sugar craving, but it's not gonna like spike you like how essentially fruits would. So you want to be eating those, right? And when you cheat, when you be eating like these dates and raisins, you're just going to feel full after eating like 500 calories worth of food. So let's say, for example, you're cutting, right? And you want to get a lean aesthetic physique, you're eating like 1,800, 1,900 calories. When you cheat, right? When you cheat, you're essentially going to be eating like what, 2,400 calories, 2,300 calories, around that amount. Because a cheat day for you is eating 500 calories of dry fruits. And that just puts you at like maintenance. And you feel satisfied after eating that too. Normally, you won't believe me, but when you eat junk food, right? And you eat cookies and you do this and you eat that and you eat like multiple cheat meals in a day when you like go off the rails, you're eating easily at minimum like 5,000 calories, probably even like 7,000, 9,000 calories, right? And that's like resetting like a whole week's of progress, right? So you did a week of progress, right? And then one day you go off the rails and you eat some junk food. You just reset your whole entire week, and now you have to start from ground zero again. But with this, right, when you cheat and you have dry fruits instead, now essentially what's happening is you're at maintenance. So what that means is, okay, you're in a deficit, right, for like a whole week. And then maybe one day you have 500 calories over what you normally eat. Now you're at your maintenance calories. So what that means is you're maintaining your weight, right? You're not going over it. But then the next day you go back to the deficit. So it's like, okay, you're in a deficit and then you maintain your weight and then you kind of go back in your deficit and it's like nothing even happened, right? Maybe you slow down your progress for like what, a day, but it doesn't erase a week worth of effort. So that's why you should go for dry fruits like, dates and raisins, and eliminate all this like watermelon, banana, because honestly, dude, like, let's be for real, those don't even taste that good anyway, right? And you're gonna overeat on watermelon. I don't care what people say, you are gonna overeat on watermelon because it's gonna taste good, and yeah, you might feel full after eating like 500 calories, but you're gonna have it again, and before you know it, it's like 1,500, 2,000 calories from just watermelon. So fuck the fruits, okay? Just have the dry fruits, all right? And the last thing, the most important thing, man, is sleep. Okay, now I don't want to be this like cringe professor who tells you like, oh, you need 8 hours of sleep, whatever. I don't want to be that guy, but I kind of have to be that guy, okay? And not 8 hours of sleep. You need 10 hours of bedtime, okay? So let me explain what I mean. If you have 9 or 10 hours of bedtime, you're gonna get 8 hours of sleep. Cause I know when you go into sleep, when you go into bed, you're not gonna fall asleep right away. I don't. Okay, even I don't. And you need like 9 or 10 hours of bedtime so you can actually get 8 hours of sleep. And let me tell you why you need the sleep. Because when you get the 8 hours sleep, man, you're just going to have less cravings, one, but two, you're not going to be like, you're going to be less bitchy, right? Like whenever you have less sleep, that's when you kind of, your willpower is a little lower. Yeah, discipline is the most important thing, I understand, but it's just everything is going to be lower. Like even your discipline is going to be lower, right? And it's just like a cheat code. When you have the 8 hours of sleep, you find that you're just going to, let me tell you in a way you understand. If you wake up at 5 a.m., right? If you wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., is it possible that you just wake up at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. and jack off? Yeah, it's possible, but you find that most of the time that you do it is probably when you stay up, right? When it's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and you stay up and jack off. That's usually when it happens. It's very unlikely that you jack off at 5, 6 a.m., right? So in the same way, it's very unlikely that when you get 10 hours of bedtime and you end up getting 8 hours of sleep, you just find that it's so rare for you to eat junk food. Now, has it happened before for me? Yeah, of course. But like I said, my cheat meal now is like 500 calories of raisins, right? So it's not even like a cheat meal at all. And the reason I'm able to pull that off is because I'm getting that 10 hours of bedtime, okay? So don't give me that excuse like, oh, well, I don't have time for 10 hours, man. I got shit to do. I know your dumbass is probably staying up and watching content like this, video after video on how I can lose weight, how I can lose weight, how I can lose the fat, or you're watching some stuff like KSI, or you're probably, watching some porn. So I know you have time, okay? You just need to put the phone down and think like, okay, do I want a lean aesthetic physique that gets girls? Do I want that? Or do I just want to be a fat consumer who does nothing with his life? If that's what you want to do, be my guest. But if you truly want the lean aesthetic physique, man, I'm telling you, you have to get at least 9 hours or 10 hours of bed, okay? Please do that. And you'll thank me later, because you try it for like 2-3 days and you'll see what I mean. You're just going to feel superhuman, okay? And the proof is this. I mean, any days that you don't sleep with an alarm and you just accidentally get like 9-10 hours of sleep, tell me how you feel. Like you're going to feel like way more capable, like you can fight a gorilla or something, right? So it's very, very important, okay? So get that. I know I'm on this topic a lot, but it's super important. That's why I want to be on this. But anyway, that's pretty much it. That's all I covered. And if you want more videos like this, you want more help on getting a lean aesthetic physique, just click the like, subscribe button so you get more videos like this. And I'm essentially documenting my journey from being skinny fat to being shredded. And I'm going to be shredded in like August 2025 or maybe like early September. So it depends, but I'm going to be documenting my entire progress. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my path there. So if you want to follow my journey and stuff, so just click the like, subscribe button, and that's essentially it from me. And I hope you have a good day, and you hope you actually implement this stuff. And that's all from me. See ya.